From giant columns of smoke to green pastures of cows, experts think meat and dairy companies will soon pass fossil fuels as the biggest polluters. Elizabeth Ruiz talked to a farming family about what the future may hold.
In the fight against climate change, the dairy industry is coming under increasing scrutiny for its environmental impact, and consumers are beginning to care more about the carbon footprint of their food. A study released by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization shows dairy's greenhouse gas emissions around the world have increased by 18% between 2005 and 2015. That's because milk production has grown substantially in response to increased demand. However, they would be even higher if it weren't for increasing efficiencies in dairy production.
I want my babies to have a really wonderful environment to work in. I want them to have all of the resources that we all have come to love and hold dear. And I think as a steward of those things, that's my job.
The dairy profession has been passed down through Mary Kraft's family for generations. It's those years of wisdom mixed with current science and technology that has enabled the Kraft family to adopt sustainable practices. Farm efficiency and management is improving in well-developed parts of the world. However, the dairy industry relies on natural resources and live animals, so it will never be fully emissions-free. The next step will be finding ways to offset these unavoidable emissions, like installing solar panels or capturing carbon from the atmosphere.
My hope is that we do a really good job. We're a good community provider, a good community contributor, and that we make a great environment for other families to live and thrive in.
For The Race, I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
Now, a big part of the climate change discussion, whether it's here in Alaska or across the United States, is how do we address this issue? Many Democratic candidates are crafting their proposals around a Green New Deal. That's the congressional plan that would wean the U.S. off fossil fuels. The plan would reduce greenhouse gas emissions and create new jobs in clean energy industries. Now, critics say the approach is just too radical and the U.S. isn't the problem. China had the most carbon pollution in 2017, followed by the US, India, Russia, and Japan. But experts say we should be looking at cumulative carbon emissions because climate change is a cumulative problem. The US is at the top of that list, followed by China, the former USSR, Germany, and the UK. One way to address those emissions is renewable energy. Alicia Nieves went to one city that's taking that idea and running with it.
Almost every morning for the last 35 years, a 21-car train pulls into Burlington, Vermont with roughly 1,500 tons of wood chips that help power the city. In 2014, Burlington became the first city in the country to run 100% on renewable energy.
We had our challenges at the beginning, and there were a lot of growing pains.
David McDonnell knows firsthand about the path to the city's energy milestone.
I came here in 1983.
McDonnell moved to Burlington in the 80s to work for the city's electric company. At that time, Burlington Electric was just starting to experiment with wood.
It was very groundbreaking stuff at the time.
The idea for the company was that this could be a more cost-effective energy source, but over the years, it has had added benefits to the community.
Fuel budget here last year was over $10 million, and if you think of our fuel, we get our fuel within a 60-mile radius of this plant. We kept all our money local for the community.
It's also helped Burlington keep energy rates consistent for more than a decade. But the biggest benefit is that the successful application started the energy revolution in Burlington. And now, in an era of concern about climate change, many point to Burlington's energy grid as a model for other cities to consider.
It's very satisfying to me. You know, I worked at a place for my whole career that really amounted to something I consider very positive for the state of Vermont.
There are other cities around the country that are considering trying to go 100% renewable energy. What is your advice to those cities?
It will be tough. You know, a goal is not easy to reach sometimes, but if you keep your nose to the grindstone, it will happen.
While Burlington was the first, 4 other cities in the U.S. now run 100% on renewable energy. and a dozen states are hoping to get there in the next decade. For The Race, I'm Alicia Nieves.
A close look at climate change continues next here on The Race.